Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to Game Day Gambles over here on the KC Sports Authority podcast. If you're checking us out over here on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below as we get rolling with a big slate of college football weekends. Greg, we've got conference championship weekend here, a lot of great games to get to, a lot of implications on the line for the college football playoff. And of course, we've got our NFL Week 14 best bets here on another edition of Game Day Gambles. Well, Greg, let's start with this. We got college football championship weekend, like I mentioned. We've got, of course, the big games this weekend across the Power Four schools, but we've also got a handful of teams that are looking to crack their way into the college football playoff this weekend with the championship win, and we've also got a lot of teams sitting around waiting to see what happens, to see if they're one of those at-large teams. So heading into this weekend, who are some of the teams that you're looking at that have either the most to gain or the most to lose?
Well, I think the team right now there's two ways to look at this, right? The teams that have the most to gain, obviously, are Iowa State and Arizona State because the winner has to be in. And the team, unfortunately, it sounds like has the most to lose could be SMU, who could get penalized for playing in a championship game, which I don't understand how the committee can even go that way.
Yeah.
But that's what it sounds like.
Yep, I've never understood that. It happens every year where teams who get to the final week of their conference season end up losing, but the team that didn't make the conference championship somehow has the edge now. Doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood that. If you make it to your championship weekend, you should be getting some consideration. Otherwise, there's no point in these games. But we've got a lot of games to get to this weekend. We've seen some of the college football playoff rankings this week, and of course tomorrow it'll all be laid out after the games are done. I think that the big surprise one so far for a lot of people is seeing Alabama in there at number 11. We've got this jumble of teams, 11 through 14, all fighting to get in. Thoughts on Alabama being the 11 seed? To me, I don't understand why they are in as a 3-loss team. There are other 3-loss teams that I think have equally as impressive resumes, and there's also some 2-loss teams that should probably be in ahead of them.
I don't like it at all. They're there because of their name. Look, all we know right now is Boise State is your 4 seed. That's what's set in stone after last night. So Boise's in as the 4. Bama sits there at 11. Miami is out. They're 12, but whoever wins between Arizona State and Iowa State is going to take over 12, which leaves Bama sitting at 11, or would be sitting at, well, yes, they'll stay at 11. And then that leaves Ole Miss sitting at 13 with Miami sitting at 13 or 14, depending on how they shuffle those two teams. Absolutely, to me, I don't understand it. When you look at Ole Miss, they lost. You look at their losses. It was a Hail Mary in Kentucky, and they lose by 3, right? A Hail Mary. Florida's a bad loss. We can't justify Florida. But 2 of their losses were on the last play of the game, pretty much. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see how they think Alabama is that much better of a team, especially after what we saw at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's to me it's a lot of that the SEC talk, but even then, looking at the SEC, Ole Miss and South Carolina to me just aren't that much different. I think they're all in similar positions, so I don't know how the committee ends up deciding what's going to happen there. But Alabama to me doesn't have a strong enough resume this year. I think they're a solid 3-loss team, but they had a lot of issues this season where they were very inconsistent. Really great wins, then bad losses. Florida did some damage this year in the SEC, despite the fact that their season still went pretty poorly. But yeah, I think that's one that confuses me a lot about this weekend. But let's get into some of the. Yeah, do you got anything else on that?
Yeah, look, they lost by 3 at LSU in overtime. Again, the Kentucky was an absolute fluke, that game that they lost, right? And then they lost by 7 in Gainesville to a very good Florida team at the end of the year. So, how you can say definitively Alabama is a better team? Once again, we are doing this thing where Alabama's name is going to get into the playoffs. Because tell me right now, on the exact same date, you're telling me losing by 7 in Florida is worse than losing by 21 in Oklahoma and scoring 3 points? You're telling me that's a better loss? So they should get the check mark? Now, look, I get it. Bama at home played a little better last week than Ole Miss, but they both wound up winning. I don't get it. You tell me. Tennessee beat them by 7. I mean, they hammered LSU. So if they're looking at that to different, but LSU was a better team in October than they were on Saturday, November 9th. I don't know.
So maybe the argument just is they all stay out, and if SMU drops the ACC championship, as we're going to get into, if SMU drops the ACC championship at Clemson, Clemson, of course, is automatically in, whereas right now they're on the outside looking in. But maybe you just say, hey, screw these other three-loss teams. We'll just put SMU in because they did make their conference championship in the ACC for their first time in the league, and they have a better resume. I don't know. Well, let's get into that one. ACC championship, Clemson versus SMU. SMU currently the 2.5-point favorite. SMU, to me, for the majority of the season, it's been them and Miami as the best team coming out of the ACC. Clemson has hung around all season and has found ways to keep the season interesting. I think Cade Klubnik's been a very solid quarterback. But what do you got on this game here?
Look, I've been a believer in SMU since the beginning of the year. I like SMU. I like them given 2.5. I don't know why they are so underrated and why Clemson, because their Clemson gets, this spread to me is light. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't think Clemson's a very good team. I think Miami's a better team than Clemson. I know the last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, really, Miami hasn't looked like a good team, but I still think they're better. I don't know why because they blew a 21-point lead at Syracuse, everyone has started to say, all right, well, Miami's not good. All right. I mean, Syracuse, I think they started the year 6-0, didn't they? I mean, Syracuse wasn't a terrible train wreck of a football team. But I think, again, this is the problem we have. SMU now plays in the ACC. Everyone needs to understand they now play in the ACC. So why are we treating them like they still play in the American Conference?
Yeah, and if you look at their schedule, it's not like it was they're a top 10 team for a reason, but their schedule is pretty solid. I mean, at the time that lost to BYU at the beginning of the year, 18-15, BYU for a majority of the season was a top 15 team. So that's not a bad loss there at all. Florida State, you go out there and absolutely dominate. Now we know Florida State didn't play very good throughout the season. But that's an impressive win. You beat Louisville in Louisville, who was a top 25 team at the time. Destroy Stanford, not a powerhouse anymore. Barely get by Duke, but you do beat a top 25 team in Pitt. Boston College was ranked at parts of the season. They got a win there. You destroyed Virginia like you should and needed to do, and you destroyed Cal last week like you need to. So I think looking at their, to me, there is some credit to the win margin you have over teams, especially teams that are considered, Power 4 programs. If you win in an impressive manner, I think that should give you some extra points. So I like SMU. I think they've been solid all season. They play really well. They have a strong offense. Their defense has been pretty good. Clemson, I don't think I trust as much. Clemson, like I said, they've had good moments throughout the season. They've had some impressive wins. They lost by double digits to Louisville, who SMU also beat. They played very close with South Carolina, which was impressive, but lost there. Barely got past Pitt, who Pitt was another top 25 team. So I just look at their resume and it's not as impressive of wins. But the weird thing with this game is neither one of these teams played Miami this year. So neither one really saw the other best team in the conference. Yeah. Which I don't know, if you can take anything away from their season like that, but I think I like SMU here for sure.
My main gripe here is if this game is won by Clemson gets in, fine. I can live with they won the ACC championship, so they get that's the rule, they get in. But you can't treat SMU like they're in the American Conference anymore. They're an ACC team. So if you took away that 8 SMU and put 8 Miami with an 11-1 record, winning 9 in a row coming into this game, are you telling me you wouldn't drop Miami to 11 and keep them in the year? No way. That's BS. You would keep Miami in. You cannot treat SMU like a mid-major anymore. They are now in the ACC. They deserve to be treated like an ACC team.
So SMU, so what I'm hearing you say is SMU should, unless it's just a monster blowout.
No, even if it is a monster blowout. They made the championship game. They won 11-1 in the regular season. They won their last 9 games. They lost to BYU, who was a decent team. They're not a train wreck, like we've been saying, by 3. Every team minus Oregon, who we'll get to them later, on this board has played a bad game, including Texas, including Penn State, including Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois. By the way, Northern Illinois at home.
Yep.
But they're Notre Dame, so they don't get penalized. They don't even play in a conference, and they're automatically the 5 or 6 seed. with one loss. You're telling me an ACC team with 2 losses gets booted for a subpar Alabama team with 3 losses? We do this every year with this Alabama team. Every year.
Yeah, and I think this year being the expanded playoff is great. It's going to get teams in that probably should deserve a seat at the table, but I think we're still also having the same conversation of how come these several teams are heavily favored no matter how their season goes, whereas teams that put up an impressive season have to do even more. It's the same. I think it's the same conversation for Heisman. Travis Hunter's terrific, both sides of the ball. But the season Ashton Genty's having, you're telling me that he's not worthy of Heisman candidacy, and that's that far of a spread between the two. It's just ridiculous. These guys that are what are considered a smaller schools still have an impressive season that's more impressive than some of the other top programs in the country, and it's like that's still not enough. So maybe SMU just goes out there and wins by 6+ and just stamps it. But yeah, I like them to stay in. And if you're looking from a betting angle over on FanDuel, they are minus 430 to get into the playoffs. So there's still a lot of strong confidence there that SMU is making the playoff. But question will be is if they somehow lose, do they find a way to stick in? Let's jump over to the Big 12 championship, which is actually the first game coming up here in about half an hour. Big 12 was wild this year. The 2 teams that are in the Big 12 championship were not projected to be the Big 12 championship. You had about I think it was 8 teams coming down to the final week of the season that still had a shot to be in this game, but it ends up being number 16 Iowa State versus number 12 Arizona State. Arizona State has just throughout the season gone up, and up. Cam Scatteraboo, tremendous running back. Kenny Dillingham's been a great coach. They've won some impressive games this year. Iowa State has also been really good, but they had that loss to Kansas like many other the Big 12 teams at the end of the year. To me, this is one of the 2 conferences that I think it's safe to say the loser is out. The winner obviously in, but the loser's out of the college football playoff. But what do you like in this matchup?
I think you kind of said it. I like Arizona State. They're the team. They're the better team. I mean, they have played well all year, in my opinion. They've won 5 in a row. I mean, every week they look like they're going to be in a tough game. They seem to rise to the occasion and win no problem. Give me Arizona State here, and I think this is a gift of a line. I think they win, and I think they win. And it's not that close.
Yeah, same thing for me with this team. With some of the other teams, is when in their wins they have impressive wins. They haven't had to win a ton of very close games, but they've had some impressive wins along the way. Beating K-State on the road at K-State by 10. BYU, I know that was a kind of wild game to ending there. And then destroying Arizona last week, which gives them all sorts of confidence. And of course, that earlier win against Utah earlier in the season when Utah was ranked. I think Arizona State to me is the pick here. Iowa State fans travel really well for everything, so I think they're going to pack a lot down there. But I do like Arizona State at plus 1.5 with Iowa State being the favorite here to go on and win the Big 12 in their first year in the conference, which kind of sucks as a Big 12 fan that you're having these new teams that are coming out and winning the conference, as we're going to talk about here with Big 10 here in a second. But yeah, I feel good with Arizona.
You're the Big 12 guy. Before we move on, I mean, what's the feeling out there in the Midwest? Are you aggravated that you're only going to get one team in, or do you think that's fair?
I think it's. I could hear the argument on both sides. I think it's a little fair because the last 4 weeks of the season, the Big 12 cannibalized itself. But I also like Brett Yormark's comments of that should strengthen our conference. Hey, we had so many teams that were good enough that even the final week of the season, we had 8 teams that could still make the championship game and then a shot at the college football playoff. In reality, I don't care too much. I mean, the Big 12 is still not the SEC, and I would still put us behind the Big 10 as far as the depth of teams. I think had this championship game been a combination of, maybe Colorado instead of Arizona State or Iowa State, then I think you could make the argument that maybe 2 teams should get in, because I think if Colorado was in this game, that would still give them a lot of favors to still get in because they were an electric team. But yeah, the fact that it's Iowa State, Arizona State, I'm good with the one team. I think BYU did enough to lose down the stretch to keep themselves out. K-State dropped the ball too much throughout the season to keep them out. So I'm good with the one team. But if you asked me at the beginning of the year, my projection was not Iowa State or Arizona State for sure. Definitely not Arizona State. I thought they'd be middle of the pack Big 12. I thought Iowa State would probably finish third or fourth.
Well, to me, here's another example of a team that'll get penalized for playing in a conference championship because the loser will now have 3 losses, and that'll be the reason they didn't make it. Well, they lost 3 games. And God, I'll tell you what, if Alabama was going to Arizona State for a 7:30 game and that line was Alabama 3.5, I'd probably put my house on Arizona State. So are you telling me a 3-loss Arizona State team is that much worse than a 3-loss SEC team? I don't think so. And I'll give you one better. I don't know who would be favored in Indiana going to Arizona State or Iowa State.
That was a good matchup I was thinking about because Indiana I feel like is in a somewhat similar boat to this where I think Indiana's in, but if you look at their resume and strength of schedule, they're not that much different of a team than an Arizona State or an Iowa State. So yeah, how would they be favored or not favored in a matchup? I think depending on where it is, I think it would be interesting. Let's see. Let's go to. Do you want to go ahead and do it now?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's take a call live.
Oh well, hold on. He's in the box here, but he is not connected yet. So
all right.
Once he gets connected, we'll have him hop in with us. Let's move over to the Big Ten Championship. We got a first-time Big Ten team in Oregon in the Big Ten Championship. Been one of the most impressive teams all season. They've been top 3 all year, but they're also facing a very feisty Penn State team that had a good year, but I think a lot of people think maybe a little overrated being a top 4 team still because they just don't always pass the eye test and nobody trusts James Franklin. But this is an interesting matchup. They still find a way to get in, and they're only a 3.5 point favorite to Oregon, who's been one of the best offenses in the country. Now, Penn State, very good defense. But can the Ducks pull off the Big Ten championship in their first appearance?
In a word, no. This is my favorite play of the day. Penn State getting 3.5. If anything, they're going to lose a close game. I don't understand why the public is just in love with this Ducks team. It's got to be because they sometimes move the ball quickly and score touchdowns, and Penn State's more of a methodical dink and dunk team. They don't have the big explosive plays, but you know what they do have? A physical defense will punch you in the mouth, and that's going to slow down some of these Duck players. Seems like we run into this all the time with this Oregon team. Look at it with Washington. When you get up against the physical team in one of these championship games, how many times has Oregon blown someone's doors off? The answer is 0. I don't get it. And when you look at it on paper, I really don't get why everyone thinks this is going to be the layup of the day and Oregon's going to slaughter Penn State. Penn State has a better strength of schedule by 24. 36 is their strength of schedule versus 60 for the Ducks. The Ducks have played nobody. They beat Ohio State, who I think we're starting to learn might not be that good, and their coach can't win a meaningful game because he forgets how to coach. They beat them by 1. Penn State lost to them at home by 7. I get it. It was the worst game Penn State's played. 2 of those interceptions bounced off another player and landed in the hands of an Ohio State player. Okay. It was their worst game of the year. Nothing bounced their way. They lost by 7 at home to Ohio State. Their only loss. Other than that, I think they've played a pretty good game every time they've gone out there. I think they've been impressive in most games. Even when they were struggling, like they did against Minnesota, they found a way to win. I don't get where this big, huge wave of Ducks bettors are coming from. If you look, 87% right now, the bets are coming in on the Ducks, and this line's only moved 0.5 point. To me, Vegas is saying, keep betting the Ducks. We can't wait to take your money.
I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think for me, it's do you trust James Franklin in a big-time game like this to go out and get the dub? Maybe not get the dub, but can they keep it close enough and lose by a field goal late? So I think that is possible.
I've heard the sports talk shows all week say that take. Here's what I don't get. Is it a big game? I mean, it's a Big Ten championship. Okay, I'll give you that. But it's not the end of the season. They're both going to the college football playoff, so the pressure's off.
True.
I mean, if he loses, worst case scenario, you're playing a home game next week against a team you're going to be a touchdown favorite against. I mean, I get it. Here's what I would say back to that. When he hasn't made the big win late in the season, right, to get himself maybe into that top 4 to get in the playoff in recent years, he's gone to the Rose Bowl when it wasn't part of the playoff and won. So he wins his bowl game once the pressure's off. So I think the pressure's on next week, in 2 weeks, and the week after that. I think this is a free roll for both teams. And in that case, love the fact that Penn State is getting 3.5 because I think the Ducks could be looking ahead. I really do. I think
I'll give you that. I think I agree with you there on that. I think Oregon's looking more for we got to get to a national championship. Penn State's like, hey, we're happy to be here. We believe ourselves that we're capable of winning a championship, but we're happy to be here. We got to get the job done. Well, let's bring in a third party here, get another objective perspective, possibly. Bring your guy Kenny here. Kenny, man, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey guys, good to see you both.
What's up, Kenny?
How we doing?
Doing well.
Good.
So
yeah, love your show. Love what you guys do. I watch it all the time. Terrific job.
Hey, we appreciate that. So I just gave him why Penn State will win. Why don't you tell him why the Ducks will win?
Well, my opinion of that game is a little bit different because I don't trust Franklin in a big game. But to your point, it probably is a free roll game for Penn State and obviously for Oregon. But gun to my head, there's no way I'm putting money on Penn State in this game. There's no way.
Even getting the hook with the field goal, huh?
You know, my theory on underdogs is you have to think they can win the game to bet them. The hook is a big deal, obviously, and when the line's 3 or 3.5. But I'm not sold on Penn State winning a big game. He hasn't won one all year.
That's the same feeling I have there. He's got to prove it.
Let's see him go out and win this game, and they're 100% going to the playoff regardless. Greg is totally correct there, but trusting them is tough to me.
So let me ask you this: when you see 87% of the public lining up to bet the Ducks in Vegas, only moving the line 0.5 point all week, does that not say, ooh,
right.
maybe something's
if
up?
you're looking at it square versus sharp, I think Penn State would be the side that you would land on. But Greg, we've been doing this for a long time, and you have a gut feeling. It's I don't trust Franklin in a game like this.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the gut feeling because I think that's something for me this season from a betting perspective. You can do all the research, you can crunch all the numbers, use all the algorithms, but I'm still an old school in the sense of you get two teams to match up. What's the first gut feeling you get on how that game's going to go? I think sometimes, in a betting perspective, you can make a lot of money trusting your gut versus just going off the analytics. And I think I agree with you there. It's James Franklin's going to make a coaching issue. He's going to have a coaching decision that's going to end up in a negative impact in this game.
I mean, I remember looking at the Journal-Inquirer, a little shitty paper in Manchester, Connecticut, when the lines came out on Thursday night, and they would stay locked in. And, you'd get the number that it was on Thursday, on Saturday. The whole spectrum has shifted so far now, and the square sharp thing does come into play. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, it is your gut. It is.
So I'm going to counter you both with this, and then we can move to another game because I get we're on different sides. Here's what puts me over the top with Penn State. They've won close games. I get the Ohio State thing, but again, I will counter. I watched the whole game. 2 times the ball wound up in an Ohio State's player because it hit a Penn State player and just fell into Ohio State's hands. Penn State should have won that game. They didn't. It's a loss. I get it. Or the Ducks should have lost.
They're up 10. They're up 10-0. Pretty much have them dead to rights and then collapse.
But they've won close games, so they're used to playing in these close games.
What's their best win of the year?
Their best win of the year was probably hammering Illinois at home. Well, not hammering them, but winning by 14. But that's how Penn State plays. They're not going to beat teams by 100.
And is Oregon due to lose a game? Maybe. You could look at that angle too. I mean, they've run the table. But I just don't trust them to win a big game. That's
fair. It's fair. I'm just saying we're hanging our hats on the Ducks beating Ohio State at home by 1. Because other than that, what's their big win that you're celebrating?
And the old shoulda won, didn't win theories kind of. I mean, there's plenty of situations you could put that into, and you win or you lose. That's where it's at in football.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you look up and down both their schedules, none of them really have a fantastic. I mean, Oregon also played Illinois, beat them by even more later in the season, but also beat Ohio State. I know it was at home for them. I'd say that their resumes are pretty similar, but yet for me, I think if you look at the coaching, I think I'd trust Dan Lanning to go get the job done more than James Franklin. I think it's going to be a fantastic smash mouth game. Like you said, Penn State's an incredibly physical team. And that can really, I mean, I think Oregon's a very athletic team, but we've seen them struggle against physicality, like you mentioned. So I think it's going to be a great game, but I think Oregon's just got more offensively they can do with than Penn State. Penn State.
What did you guys think of the end of the Maryland Penn State game last week?
Your thoughts? What did you think?
Well, I agreed with Franklin. I mean, you put your players in to play the game out, and I have no problem whatsoever with him putting that touchdown on the board at the end of that game.
I never do, especially when
it's the Bill Belichick method. You don't stop scoring until the game's over, because the second you let your foot off the gas, you let teams back in. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I see this every single week. Andy Reid doesn't like to put the pressure on the other teams. He lets them hang around all game, and they squeak out wins.
Yeah, I mean, a little different in the NFL when you're up 37-7 or whatever it was. But I have no problem whatsoever with what he did.
Me either.
Yeah, if you're the team that gets upset about it, go out there and perform better.
Yeah, I have zero problem, and I took a lot of crap having this take, with friends. I have zero problem with what Michigan did. You don't want the flag dumped in your O, win the freaking game.
Oh, that whole flag thing. Yeah.
Win the game as a 21.5-point favorite. If you lose when you're that big of a favorite, go to the locker room.
You deserve to have your
go to the locker room. I don't even know how you're in the playoffs still. It blows my mind you only got dropped, that you're going to get a home playoff game for losing.
Well, they want Ohio State in. It's going to be like Alabama. Alabama's going to get in too. Yeah.
We talked about that earlier, and I know you've told me that off air that Alabama's in. It blows my mind that
at the end of the day, it's all about the money. The SEC, they're going to draw more attention. That's what it boils down to.
So let's move over.
Here's my thing with the 12-team playoff that I like. If you're number 13, number 14, or 15, you can go screw off. Where when it was 4, 5, 6, and 7 have a gripe. This playoff system to me is fine.
Yeah, I like it because you give those teams that are on the outside a chance, but in reality, are there 15 teams every single year that are going to win the national championship in college football? Probably not. No, you could argue years there might be 6 teams some years, but in reality, it's 3 to 5 teams every single year, and then really 2 to 3 of them that have a legitimate chance at winning. So
totally
12, 13, 14, 15, give them a seat at the table and let them go out and prove it, because we've seen wild things happen in the longer playoff scenarios for other sports. But in reality, it's like you said, it's all about money. The more teams they put in the playoff, the more money that's generated on the TV deals, all the schools, the conferences, all that.
Without
the fans.
It's fine, and I agree with it. I don't have a problem with this list at all, except SMU if they lose tonight. If you boot them out, something's wrong with this system. Because again, Kenny, if you didn't hear it at the beginning, you cannot treat them like a mid-major anymore. They are an ACC school. And if that said Miami 8-11-1 playing Clemson today, and Clemson won, Miami would be in. I don't care what you tell me. They would put the Canes in. SMU deserves the same treatment. They are now an ACC team that went 11-1, winning 9 straight, getting the conference championship game. If you keep them out, that just tells me this is a complete fraud, and you might as well just go back to 4 teams.
Yeah, the system is a little fraudulent. I mean, look, the people that are picking the teams to go in have an agenda going into it. But if SMU gets drilled today, they should probably be left out. But do you move Ole Miss in? Like South Carolina.
Well, Ole Miss should be in over Alabama.
Who just beat Clemson? What's that?
Ole Miss should be in over Alabama. It's not even close.
I agree. I agree with that. But it's not going to happen.
Let's go to the SEC here. Let's go to two teams that are for sure getting in. Georgia, Texas. Texas also, in their conference championship, first year in the SEC. One of the 2-3 best teams in college football pretty much all season. Didn't even matter who was at quarterback. Georgia, not the same Georgia we're used to seeing, but they still found ways to get it done by the end of the year. They had weeks where, they get off to such a slow start, but then somehow find their way back in a game. Texas opens as a 2.5-point favorite, their first time in. Thoughts on this game, fellas?
Yeah, look, I look at this line and I like it, and I like Texas. I do. I think Texas is the better team. And I know people are going to say, but wait, Georgia already beat them in Texas. I get it. Doesn't that tell you something? They're still making it a 2.5-point favorite for Texas. The reason I like Texas this year, and normally I don't, is because Texas actually has a defense. Normally, Texas can go up and down the field with anyone, but they can't stop anyone. Now they can finally stop people. So I'll take Texas all day because they're still going to score on this Georgia team.
I'll take Kirby Smart over Sarkisian all day long, and I really like Beck's girlfriend. So Georgia for me.
I think that's some great analysis on as to why to pick them.
But when you go on the road and beat the team like a drum, that score wasn't indicative even. It should have been by more.
I agree.
I mean, but Georgia they let's face it, against Tech, they looked terrible. Got beyond lucky to pull that win out. To me, this is a no-bet game. I mean, I can't honestly say I would have a side I'd love in the game.
Look, I sat right here the week of October 19th and told you Georgia was going to drill Texas. Did I not?
Correct.
Now I'm sitting here on the week of December 7th, and I'm telling you Texas is going to drill Georgia.
So you've turned into a contrarian. That's what I like.
I think it's very hard when you have two top teams to beat them twice. I think Texas will be the more focused team.
I always think it's the third. It's the third game. Yeah.
Yeah, but in college you don't get to that third game often. I think
you'd never get a third. Yeah.
So what if this game is as close as it is, and it's a game you don't want to touch? Is there an aspect to this game from a betting perspective that might be worth diving into? Over unders 49.5. Are there any other types of ways you would play this game to make some money?
The other thing, and I don't know if you look at these angles, the games in Atlanta, I mean, is there any home field for Georgia? I know Texas travels as well as anyone, but there is a little bit of an advantage there playing in Georgia. An angle only. The total, I mean, I could never bet an under in a game, in an SEC championship game.
Yeah, that's my thought in this one. That 49.5. I think they could easily hit this.
100%. But I'm not a totals guy. Greg's really not either. But I wouldn't bet the under.
All right, look, I got to ask. I've been staring at it now for a few minutes. I see Keegan's Christmas tree, and that's nice. But am I looking at hole 16 behind you, Kenny, at Augusta? Is that what I'm looking at? Yeah,
16,
all right.
Augusta National.
That's what I thought. All right.
The Christmas tree.
All right.
There's Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Gentlemen.
All right.
What's up?
Yeah, that's what I thought we were looking at. Yeah, I mean, look, for me, Keegan, what's your thoughts? Are you leaning Georgia? You like underdogs?
I do, but I think I like the full picture of what Texas has done this year. Like you said, I think Georgia has been a little inconsistent, but I do, again, to me, once you get to a game like this, there are a lot of the other outside aspects of a football game to look at. And I think the coaching here, Kirby Smart's been there, done that. Sarkisian hasn't. I think Sarkisian comes from a great line of coaches, and he, over the last 4 years, has built up a strong Texas program, like you said. But Kirby Smart has been there, done that. So I think from a coaching perspective, I'd put a little bit more trust on Georgia's side. But there's just something. Texas's offense is explosive. They can jump out 17-3 in the first half and just kind of keep the pressure on. So I'm kind of with you in the sense that this is one I'm not looking at as a strong play to get into. It's just too close down the wire. It might be one I look at more as a live bet as the day goes on,
Yeah,
as the game gets going.
Live betting is the only way to win money nowadays.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun too.
Oh yeah, it's the only thing that scares me. Live betting, you can win at it.
Yeah, it's you can also lose a lot on it if you're chasing the wrong side. I think that's why it exists. Because
especially if you get down early and you're trying to fight your way back in.
And I think people, like I always say on this show, people panic. That's why the cash out button's there. Team goes up 7. They're like, oh my God. Kenny, you say it better than anyone. We play 60 minutes at this level. Let the game play out.
That is my line. Yep.
I mean, it's true.
All hell can break loose in the last 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. I bet. And people panic. Cash out button's there for a reason, to make the books money. And I think the same thing with live betting. I think if you're smart and you watch the game flow and you can say, oh, I made a mistake, and you can start hammering the other side because you can release that first bet, you can make money. But if you go into it with a bet, a lot of gamblers don't know what to do, and then they just start panicking.
Agreed.
Yep. Any other final thoughts on college football playoff picture that you guys want to get off your chest? Any takes?
I think it's very subjective as to who they can choose. And when you're choosing 11, 12, or 13, to me, it's like you lost 3 games. You really didn't do enough to prove yourself to be in there. Who they take is who they take.
Yeah, look, I've already said it about SMU, and I'll tell you this is my last part. If SMU gets left out somehow and Notre Dame gets a home game, then I got even more problems with the system.
Oh, don't get me into Notre Dame, Greg.
It's just, what a joke. 11-1.
They should collude against Notre Dame starting today and make them join a conference.
Yes.
They can't continue on putting them up on this pedestal and having it work this way. No chance. I hope they get fucking drilled by whoever they play. I really do. And Greg will tell you, I grew up a Notre Dame fan. But I can't stand what they've done.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. Who's your guys' favorite to win the college football playoff?
Favorite.
I know we don't have the full bracket yet, but
I want to see the bracket and the odds first.
Yeah, I gotta see that.
Going blind here, just trying to think what this might look like and what the I got to see what happens today. It's hard, but I'll probably tell you next week. I'll be talking about value on Penn State and Tennessee would be my guess.
Tennessee will be a price if you're
They should get a home game, I would think, to start.
I think Georgia or Texas are going to be the prohibitive favorite. Whoever wins the game today, but
I'll tell you who I won't be taking, Kenny, is Ohio State.
I still do like Alabama.
It's just unreal.
I really do.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe's electrifying. I could see him running the table. Literally.
As long as you're going to tell me Saban's leaving the booth or leaving the show and College Game Day and he's going to coach, I'm with you. If he's not, Alabama will be losing.
The three favorites are going to be today's game, the SEC and Ohio State.
Yep, I agree. And Ohio State has no chance.
I would agree there too.
Yep. No, Ryan Day's another one of those coaches you don't trust. Well,
he's a lame duck now too. He's the Urban Meyer talk. The rumorville there. He could be back. There's no bigger whore in the world than him. If the money's there, he'll be.
No,
back.
there is. Belichick's talking to him too.
Yeah, he's going to go to UNC.
I think we didn't plan to get to that, but my gosh, that's ridiculous. I don't know why Belichick would want to go to the college level at this point.
He ain't going to UNC, I can tell you that.
I think it's all a ploy for another NFL gig just to drive the price up. Okay, well, speaking of NFL,
Bengals, I like it.
I think Vegas.
He said, Vegas. I could see it. Tom Brady's already out there, bring Belichick over.
Yep.
I just don't know why anybody would want to intentionally come to the AFC West while Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are still doing their thing. Because it's just more challenging.
It's the money though. He's going to get tossed a blank check to come in and He can't do it. The guy goes on now on these shows, and it's like he's never spoken a word in his life. And maybe he's enjoying that. God knows he doesn't have to work again. But
No.
I don't think he knows what to do with himself.
He doesn't.
The best he looks is when he's on the Manning cast.
I was just gonna say.
Outside of that,
Manning
it's
cast. Yeah.
outside of that, he's
But
not
you
worth watching.
watch that Manning cast, and it's like you're inside Bill Belichick's head, which you never thought you could get into. I love watching that.
It's great. Well, let's get into NFL Week 14. Not a huge slate of games. There's a lot. It feels like half the league's on bye. I was telling Greg, my fantasy team, basically everybody's on bye week, and I'm playing some scrubs, trying to get into the playoffs. The AFC playoff picture's basically done, I think, at this point. The Colts have a chance to still get in, but it looks like the AFC's wrapped up. It's just a matter of seeding. So not a lot of exciting games, but I do think there are some games that are worth looking at. For me, I wanted to start with Seahawks Cardinals. I think the NFC West is still a crapshoot right now. You've got I would say all of those teams have a chance to win that division, although the 49ers definitely look the worst. But Seattle is sitting there at the top of the division right now, 7-5, Arizona 6-6. I think these are two teams that most weeks are very, very similar, which, 2.5 point spread for Arizona at home. Greg has not been a fan of Seattle all season. He's told me they are fraud.
Yep.
And every time I've told Greg that I have a good feeling about the Seahawks, they go and do that. They've been my upset pick several times this year. But I think this week I like Arizona at home. I think Kyler Murray's starting to look pretty solid. I think that their offense is starting to hum a little bit more. Trey McBride, 10 plus catches a game is a lot of fun for a player prop. But I like the Cardinals at home here to cover that 2.5. I think this is a late field goal to win the game type play.
Yeah. Do I even have to make a pick here? I think we know. I hate the Seahawks. I think they suck. I don't know how they're. I think in this, and Kenny can tell you, we've known each other for 100 years. I'm normally a Vikings guy. For some reason, I have a soft spot for him, but I think Seattle is the worst 7-5 team to ever take a field, and Minnesota is the worst 10-2 team in the history of sports.
Without a question, Minnesota 10-2. That couldn't be a phony or not yet.
I'm all over.
I don't think Seattle's awful. I'm not really on the same page there. I wouldn't bet them in this game though. Again, the NFL is so fickle. It's week to week. The things that change are just so unpredictable. But if I were betting it, I would bet the Cards.
Yeah, me too, obviously. And here's why. You look at things, and things usually have a way of evening out. Their point differential is exactly the same, these two teams, both 7. But weirdly enough, Seattle in their 12th man, which they ripped off from A&M, is 3-4 at home. They're 4-1 on the road. So I can't see them keep running the table on the road here. I think the Cards, who are 4-2 at home, a decent home team, will get this win at home.
Yep, I like it. Arizona gets them to first place in the division, gets them to kind of take over that spot there. So I like it there. Let's go to the team you said that's fraudulent. Let's talk about Falcons Vikings. Kirk Cousins returns to to Minnesota to face off against his old squad there. Coming off probably one of the worst games of his career, one of the worst 3-game stretches of his career. Vikings 4 weeks ago were considered probably second, third, or fourth best team in the NFC. I don't know where you could slate them now. The way they look, they're a 500 team. But you said Vikings 10-2, you don't trust them. So I'm going to guess here you have the Falcons covered in 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the Falcon. This whole NFC South. It's a shame someone has to make the playoffs, but
it's been like that for several years. Outside of the Tom Brady Bucks year, it's always a 9-7 team in the NFC South.
And we might not even see that this year.
And the Cousins coming back to Minnesota angle.
Yeah, and they haven't been. This is another team that hasn't been a train wreck on the road. They're 3-2, but they haven't. They won a game out of they've won a couple. They're Atlanta lives in the division. They're 4-1 in the division. That's where they win their games. I'm not giving 5.5 with Minnesota. Let me be very clear.
No. Yeah, I agree. I'd be on the Falcons.
Yeah,
5.5 is a decent amount for a team that doesn't really blow anybody out.
Yeah, if I'm taking anything right here, I'm taking the Falcons.
Yep. Likewise.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game more at a couple individual props. The line is just right in a spot where I want to take the Vikings because they do have a strong point differential, and the Falcons don't. But I think there is a lot of excitement with the whole Kirk Cousins coming back. I think he wants to be able to go out there and prove that he's still worthy of his $40 million a year and is a better quarterback in the league. So I think he's going to go out there and play well. But I think the Vikings probably still get the win. Again, they're kind of like the Chiefs. They just find ways to win games that they maybe don't look like the better team in. So I've got a couple prop plays I'll throw out at you guys here as we get towards the end of this for this game. But right now, I think I am holding off on betting the spread because my gut tells me the Vikings are winning this game, but I don't like that line there. I just don't trust the Falcons.
I always like to prognosticate what the lines are going to be, and this one's a little bit high. I would have made it 4. In that regard, I would only play the Falcons in this one, but no confidence in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Two teams that you don't have a lot of confidence. The only thing I think the Vikings have going for them more now is their run game has looked pretty solid the last couple of weeks.
Great.
And they're controlling the tempo and pace of the game pretty well. And that's without Justin Jefferson really going off. He's only had one really good game in the last 4 weeks. It's been the Jordan Addison show. Yeah, let's go over to another two disgustingly ugly teams. Greg, I swear if you tell me you're throwing any money at the Jets again, every single time you've talked about them on this podcast this year, they have dropped the ball, and they are a 5.5-point underdog on the road at Miami. Two teams going absolutely nowhere fast. To me, this is a 5.5-point line that I'm going Dolphins in a 35-13 blowout.
Yeah, I got less than zero interest in this game. I won't be betting it. I won't be watching. Well, I'll have to watch it, unfortunately, on Red Zone when someone scores. But I'm not.
Tyreek Hill scoring the first touchdown of the day.
Yeah,
12 o'clock, first game, 5 minutes in, he's got a 55-yard bomb down the field.
As long as he keeps the windows down in his car on the way in.
Exactly. Yeah, I got no problem with you betting the Dolphins. I'm probably not going to bet it. I don't trust either of these teams, honestly.
Yeah, I would. Aaron Rodgers is not coming back next year, and he stands up there on the McAfee show on Tuesdays and does his little spiel. Dolphins for me for sure.
Look, the Aaron Rodgers thing is simple to me. He right now at 41, he makes Dan Marino look like Lamar Jackson in the pocket compared to him.
Correct. I can't believe they actually haven't benched him, but it's Aaron Rodgers, so they're not going to.
Yeah, I think the only way they do is they mutually agree he's injured.
Yeah, he's a lame duck, and lame ducks don't last in the NFL. You can kind of put a little color on him and make him stand up, but he won't last. There's no chance he's quarterbacking that team next year.
No, and there's a very good chance he does get injured. He can't move. Like he cannot sidestep somebody.
Well, Father Time always catches up, right?
Undefeated.
Eventually. I got 2 more games after again. This slate's not super exciting. There are a couple of games I might get your guys' thoughts on outside of these two. But this is my upset pick of the week. I think if I go back week by week, I've only missed my upset pick twice this year. So again, another gut feeling to me says the Rams, 3.5-point dog at home. Bills traveling across the country backwards.
Yeah.
Most considering the best team in the AFC or best team in the NFL right now in the Rams, the Rams and the Bills. To me, this is the Rams have a chance to get back in the top of their division and go out there and basically give the Bills a game that they really won't be hurt by losing this game. So I've got Rams plus 3.5 here.
Yeah, this is the sharp versus square game of the week. 100%. The Rams are who the smart guys are going to bet plus 3.5. Now I think it's Bills are actually they're minus 115, 3.5. But I'm not betting the Rams in this game.
No,
I don't know about Greg. I mean,
this is a game.
I love McVay. I think he's a brilliant mind. He's a savant, but I'm not going against Josh Allen. I think he's the best quarterback in the game.
No, he's clearly the MVP of the league for sure.
All right. 99 out of 100 in this spot, I would take the Rams. And if you took these two teams away and the names away and told me the situation, I'd bet the Rams. However, there's a reason why I'm throwing out what Keegan said. It does matter because your shitty Chiefs keep winning games they shouldn't win, and the Bills have to keep winning because the 1 seed is still at play.
True.
And they own the tiebreaker. So they have to keep winning. Yeah. Because if they do not want this AFC championship game going through Kansas City, they want it going through Orchard Park. And they are going to be focused and play for that reason. They do not want to lose another championship game in Kansas City. So do they?
I lost a lot of money on games like this to Greg back in the late 90s. So that's the only reason I wouldn't bet Buffalo. But with that being said, there's no chance I would bet the Rams in this game.
So Kenny, we've seen it play out a lot, and this wouldn't shock me at all. The Bills win the game, but everyone who lays the points gets slaughtered because they win by 2 on a late field goal.
Yep, absolutely could see that.
I just love the fact that Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are back playing healthy. Kyron Williams is a touchdown machine. Rams defense isn't anything exciting for sure, but in a high-scoring game on the West Coast, I think the Bills could have a dud game here, and the Rams go out and
bad spot for the Bills. You're right, bad spot.
It is.
That's why I like it. So I'm not playing the spread here. I'm just going to play Rams plus 160 money line and try and get some extra juice.
Keegan, you're on to something. If Josh Allen wasn't the quarterback and the Bills didn't have to keep pace with the Chiefs.
That's true. Yeah, I do think that plays an element, which is also why, as a Chiefs fan, is the hope that the Rams pull this off.
Shocking. That's your angle, by the way.
Sure.
Shocking. This is your upset pick. Everyone listening is just they can't.
But hey, I've been very strong in my upset picks this year. I've only lost 1 or 2 that I can think of off the top of my head here. So I feel good with this.
And that's a good one because not many people are going to be on that one.
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah.
The other one, I think I'm going to bet it just because it's such a large spread. But this is not a gut play. This is just it's such a huge spread. Why not throw something at? And that's the Panthers on the road at the Eagles. Why not? Why not have some anarchy?
I put $3 million on Eagles money line at Circa. I don't know if you guys saw that on.
I did not.
Yeah. I would bet the I'm a sucker for big dogs, but as Greg knows I'd bet the Panthers in that game.
Here, Keegan, I'll tee you up for this one. The 8-4 Chargers go to the 9-3 Chiefs. Just kidding. They're 11-1 because the Raiders can't snap a ball and Denver kicked the ball into the back of the line. So somehow they're 11-1 still.
Hey, good teams find ways to win. Bad teams find ways to lose. That's all I can tell you.
I know Greg's back in Captain Comeback in this one.
Oh, there's not even a doubt in my mind the Chargers win this game on the field.
I'm leaning that way. I definitely think Chargers cover. I mean, the Chiefs never cover. They never cover. 3.5. This game has always a 3 to 2 point game.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Opened 6. It's down to 4. I would have. Yeah, that's
this game is always 27-23, 23-21. It's going to be close. Joey Bosa is going to get a stupid sack, and then he's going to miss half the game because he's tired. Lad McConkey's going to get 10 catches in the slot somehow. Will Disley's going to catch a late game touchdown because that's what Chiefs do to tight ends. But somehow Patrick Mahomes is going to go down the field, get Matthew Wright to kick a game-winning field goal with 30 seconds left, and it'll be 23-22. So I still have Chargers covering. This is a game, though, the Chargers have won a couple times in Justin Herbert's career. I really like what Harbaugh's doing out there. They play a very disciplined football. But again, you look at their schedule, to me, they don't have a lot of crazy great wins. They've played a weaker schedule than some of the other AFC teams. But they also, you have to play who's on your schedule, and they find ways to win games. I think this is an incredibly well-coached game on both sides. I think this is going to set up the next 4 or 5 years of some really fantastic games between these two, because I think Justin Herbert finally has a good coach that can scheme things up correctly and put the right guys around. So I still like the Chiefs to win, obviously being the homer, but there's no way the Chiefs are covering 3.5. Never happens. You could bet the Chiefs against the spread every single week, and you're probably going to cash out at a 90% clip. So Chargers plus 3.5. They always keep this close. The Chiefs just can't blow teams out.
Yep. I agree. And I'm big when we get this deep in the season on point differential. And Plus 72 for the Chargers is pretty good.
Yep, and the Chiefs struggle
Plus
tonight.
54.
I like the
struggle most
Chargers a
weeks.
lot. I really do. I lost on them against the Ravens. I liked them in that game at home, but it's so week to week in the NFL. There's nothing more fickle. There's nothing more fickle.
Any other games you guys like on that slate? Again, not a lot of terrific games this weekend.
Well, what do you think about the Bengals Cowboys? Cowboys catching 5.5 at home in the night game. I mean, that's Bengals are done. I know Greg loves Burrow like I do, but
they put up a lot of points, but they sure do give up a lot of points.
They're done. They're done now.
Again, this is another one where you look at it and you just shake your head, going, "How is this team possibly 4-8?" Point differential on the year -5.
But you can't trust them laying points on the road.
No, you can't trust
5.5. I mean, the Cowboys are not a good team, but 5.5 is still a lot.
Might surprise you. 3 of their 4 wins are on the road, Kenny.
Yeah, it does. Well, that does. Yeah.
What are the Cowboys at home?
I bet the Cowboys in that game.
The Cowboys are 1-5 at home, -91.
Yeah, they're having their worst home season in like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah,
-91. But again, why not have some anarchy? Cowboys go out and do something. CeeDee Lamb has so my buddy and I, we've been really getting into 2 TD plays every weekend, trying to find the guy. And of course, I don't think any of us had Tim Patrick this last Thursday. But this is when I look at, I could see a CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase combo for 2 TDs apiece, 4 TDs between the two of them. CeeDee Lamb actually, he might be missing this game now that I think about it.
No, he'll play.
I saw he was he missed practice or something this week, but he doesn't have a lot to play for this season other than to keep putting good film out there to get the heck out in the offseason. So I like both the receivers though to have a big day.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Look, in the beginning of the year, I was dead right on 2 things for fantasy. I told everyone CMC would be a train wreck this year and not to draft him. And I told everyone the cheetah would not be the cheetah, he'd be the turtle.
And I didn't listen.
Those two.
I did not listen.
I told everyone to draft CeeDee Lamb number 1, and then Dak went out, and CeeDee has not had a great fantasy season, so maybe he turns it around late. So I'm hoping you're right, Keegan.
Yeah, me too. Let's get into some player
There's
props.
only one other game that I was looking at that kind of stuck out. It's Bears at Niners. The line seems low. Niners only giving 3 at home to the lowly Bears. Caleb Williams looks like they finally figured him out. Bet the Bears.
Seriously. So another thing that, again, like I keep saying on this episode, I watch those net points. Bears actually have a +1 point differential, even though they're 4-8.
I mean, if they didn't have that
they find ways to lose games.
Head coach, they'd be at least 500.
I agree, 100%.
The Thanksgiving Day game was, they might not have won if it went to overtime, I get, but the Washington game was like, that guy should have been fired on the spot.
I'll tell you what.
They should have sent that cornerback with him.
If Dan Campbell's not the greatest coach of all time, I don't know who is. Going for it on 4th and 1 that takes a set of nuts like nobody has in this world.
But was that the analytics say it wasn't the right move? I think it was the right move.
Me too. You don't give him the ball back. You can't lose.
Yeah.
You don't let him tie it. You've been running into their line all night, getting 2, 3, 4 yards. The Packers were back up against the wall. You just take the life out of them with 3 feet right there.
Yep.
And David Montgomery, I think there was, watching that game, there was maybe one play. I think there was a third and short, and they got stopped for a no gain. And that was the only time I think it happened all night.
It was 3rd and goal, and then they went for it on 4th and goal. And guess what? They scored.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that could come back to bite him in the playoffs. That could come back to bite him in the playoffs if they don't get one of those conversions. But yeah, the Lions, Greg and I have talked about every week. They're so much fun to watch. You can pick just about every single week, pick any of their guys, and one of them's getting a touchdown for sure. So I love their props. But let's get into some player props here. A couple I want to throw out to you. Calvin Ridley to me has been a big time receiver from a fantasy perspective down the stretch here. Now he's going up against his old team. They look terrible. They don't have a great defense. 65.5 yards. Oh, I don't know where I get the 6 came there. 65.5 yards is the over for him. He's hit this in 4 of his last 6. He's a big time threat down the field. Will Levis likes to hit him deep. Westbrook Hine has been pretty solid too, but I think Calvin Ridley can easily cover this. And I also think Calvin Ridley at anytime touchdown at 200 plus 200 is a good play. He's gone 3 weeks without a TD, so he is due. But this is my first prop I like.
I like both of it. I think you're onto something here. I think they're going to get the ball plenty of times because Mac Jones ain't moving the ball anywhere. So,
hey, he looked good last week.
Yeah, I think, and it's at home. I like it.
Yeah, Tennessee.
This
has been a good duo.
I don't even look at them.
Well, moving on to another one then, Greg. Kirk Cousins back in Minnesota, over 1.5 TDs.
Pass. I can't trust this guy to no.
This is one I've been looking at all week because I want to take the over because the plus money, but he hasn't had a touchdown in 4 weeks.
If he didn't have one of the better running backs in the league sitting in his backfield, I tell you, hey, this looks pretty good. But if it's first and goal anywhere inside the 5, I'm handing it off to Robinson 4 times.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Same game here. Flip to the other side of the field. Jordan Addison has been on a little bit of a hot streak as of late. His over-under's only 46.5. He has hit this in 3 of his last 4, 5 of his last 10. Consequentially, at the same time, Justin Jefferson's has dipped just a little bit, but he's finding ways to get more involved, especially against other teams where Justin Jefferson's been getting a ton of double teams and he still catches it down the field. But I like this one over 46.5, which also has me wanting to take Justin Jefferson under 83.5. He has not hit this over that often. He's about half of the year he hits it, half the year he doesn't. He's missed this in 3 of his last 4 and 6 of his last 11 because I think some of that is Jordan Addison getting a little bit more run here.
Yeah,
But I know Justin Jefferson's your guy. You love his stats.
I might go the other way here. The Falcons don't. I think they're 17th or 18th against the pass. I probably would go with JJ over to have a decent game here.
Yeah,
that would be.
He's a hard one to pick because he's always 1 40-yard bomb away from breaking something open.
I think this game's going to be more points scored than people think. I think they're actually going to go up and down the field a little bit.
Yeah. And then the other one that, again, he's been a disappointment throughout the year, but I think this is a major breakout game for him. Tyreek Hill over 62.5 yards, minus 113. I think this is a big-time game from him this weekend. Devon A changed the majority of their offense, and Jalen Waddle's getting a lot of great look. But, again, Tyreek Hill is always one big play away from 40, 50-yard gain. I like this a lot. I also like a Tyreek Hill anytime touchdown at plus 120. I think he's actually the first touchdown of the day on Sunday, and I think it happens really quick.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I think the Jets, especially the Jets defense, we'll see in 2025. I think they've pretty much given up.
Yeah,
there's nothing left.
I agree with that.
And then my last one, it's not a great line, but if there's not a surefire lock more than this pick right here, and I use that word correctly, pick, it is a Jameis Winston anytime interception on the road in Pittsburgh. The guy is so much fun to watch. He is great for TV, great NFL, but he's gonna throw a pick to somebody, right? There's no way he doesn't pick.
That one truly seems like it can't lose at minus.
Yeah, you gotta throw a lot.
His whole purpose now is just to set himself up for Twitter and Instagram. That's all he cares about at this point.
He's just gonna air it out all night. Coming off a big game against the Broncos. Still don't know how he threw as many picks as he did in that game because he looked really good for the majority of that game. Yeah, I'd say if you could find a lock this weekend on a player prop, again, you got to throw a lot at it to make anything. That's when
Keegan, I got to ask you, what'd you think of the Jayhawks performance in Creighton?
Oh, that was terrible. Combination of
an absolute bear trap, Jim. That's why these teams never signed up for those games 20 years ago. And I mean, being a UConn guy, obviously losing 3 in Maui was brutal, but I can't believe they signed on to that game.
It's been years in the making trying to get that game to happen, and this is why KU's never done it. I think that's why a lot of teams don't do it. But no, Creighton had the
Yeah.
perfect matchup. I think Greg McDermott's a really good coach. I think he found something that works against a guy like Hunter Dickinson. As a KU fan myself, Hunter Dickinson's a great player, but he's easy to defend if you ask me. If you get another big body guy on him, keep him out of the paint. He's done. They played an interesting defense. And so when you're forcing DeJuan Harris to be the guy taking 21 shots, you're not going to win. But Creighton had Pops Isaacs just went freaking off from three. The little Stephen Ashworth kid, I just wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Just wanted to punch him in the face over and over and over. There's not a more punchable face in college basketball right now than I think Stephen Ashworth, at least for me. But yeah, just terrible game.
I don't like either team, and I agree with that.
Look, it's a good loss. Creighton's been a good team for a long time. We'll see if they can get over the hump in this tournament and maybe make a deep run. But I'd much rather see.
They're a fly in the ointment team, Greg. That's all they are. They win at home. They can beat a big name team at home, and then they.
It wasn't long ago. I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't UConn, but they destroyed someone in the Big East
destroyed
championship
UConn last year.
Was it UConn?
Yeah.
And they crushed someone in the Big East championship game. I can't remember who the hell it was.
Last year?
Was it 2 years ago?
Because that propelled them up the seed line, because then KU faced them and Kalkbrenner was out.
Yeah.
It was UConn got eliminated in the semis at Madison Square Garden that year, and Creighton destroyed someone in the championship game. I just can't remember. It might have been Providence.
Yeah.
Might have been Providence the year Providence was decent. Right before.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else that would have been.
Yeah. But Creighton's a good team. My point was going to be I'd rather see Kansas go and lose there than Hurley take this team down to Stony Brook and win by 7.
But he doesn't do that anymore. They do play the systems.
He played Hartford.
He did say he's never doing one of these in-season tournaments again.
Yeah, he's all scared of the Maui now. He'll go back to the Atlantis.
Oh yeah.
It's good for college basketball to have these big marquee matchups early. It's entertaining for the fans. Creighton needed that way more than Kansas did. That loss has no implications on KU's season, but that's a huge signature win for Creighton when it comes to seeding down later in the year.
Without a doubt. Yep.
And it gives them a lot of confidence. But yeah, I thought that was an ugly game. It also looked like to me as watching it that I don't know how much effort Bill Self really put into mid-game adjustments. I don't think he really cared as much.
Well, if you make
because he didn't do anything.
You should figure it out a little bit better.
I agree.
Yeah, only letting Hunter Dickinson take 4 shots. He literally had like 6 wide open threes he didn't take either, just because as soon as he caught it, immediately passed it. But ugly game. It's all right. They're gonna go stomp the brakes off Mizzou tomorrow in Columbia, because that's a game we're not gonna let our team lose. But anyway, that's all I got on this one. We didn't have as many tune in. This was kind of a last minute live one, so we didn't really get a lot participation tune in, but that's okay. We got to get some content out there. That's the point. Get some content, make some money.
Kenny, join us again sometime. It was fun.
I would love to. Guys, have a great weekend.
Appreciate you.
Good luck.
Got some tickets.
You got it.
Thank you for those that did tune in. Happy betting to everybody. Make some money this weekend, and like and subscribe below. Come back next week. We'll have college football playoff previews to get into, and try and mix in some more college basketball with some of that too. But I'll do it for this one. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.